Hey guys, David. This is Express Auto Transmission. We like to play with transmissions here, and we like having you guys here watching our videos. So thank you guys for watching. Welcome back. We're gonna go see what's on the bench today.
This is the 456 hub. This is the shaft.
The idea behind that is to get as much oil to the fourth clutch as quick as you possibly can. And we've got a beautiful backing. We made it back. It's been a long road, but we made it back. Gonna apologize, guys. We had some technical difficulties with our...
Say that again?
Shut up. We had some issues. We didn't get the teardown quite recorded. There may or may not have been some miscommunication on when to push the record button and when to not push the record button. I don't know. Here nor there, we are here now, and we're going to finish this valve body up.
It wasn't my fault.
You, sir, are correct. Like always, guys, like, share, subscribe. And today, we're playing with this thing. It's C4. This thing has been an absolute adventure to build. We've really enjoyed doing it, just mainly because the guy that owns it is restoring a classic car, and you can't go wrong with classic cars. But we've vapor honed it, we've built the drones, we've built the planetary system, we've built the governor system, we've built the pump, reassembled it all, new band, new clutches, steels, bushings, whole bunch of other fun stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm really happy with the way that this unit has come along. Everything air checks the way it's supposed to now. We had some piston arguments halfway through this thing about how it should air check and the way that I felt that it was wrong, but we got all that resolved, and now we're on to the valve body. We've already taken the time to take this valve body apart. We've inspected the whole valve body, had all the valves out, had a good fun discussion about it, and then we realized that, hey, you got to push the record button. But what we do know is that all of the valves down inside the valve body are moving nice and freely, back and forth. Everything feels as smooth as it possibly could feel, in my opinion. There's not really a logic there to how a valve is going to feel outside of nice and free. So, noting that everything is free, we've already put all of our pressure regulator system back together. We got our boost valve in. The only real issue that I had with this valve body was the TV valve itself. The TV valve bore had some wear in the front of it. It didn't vacuum test incorrectly or anything like that, in my opinion, but the valve was very hard to get out of the bore. So with the valve out of the bore, we used one of our Bench Buddy brushes, not this one, I think this one's toast. It's time to retire that brush, but we used one of our Superior Bench Buddy brushes, and we brushed this bore, and we got this valve to where it strokes just as nice and freely as it can. So we're going to reassemble this thing. This valve body came with two check balls in it. And what I like to do whenever I am doing a valve body I'm unfamiliar with is I will take a picture before I tear the valve body apart, and then I will refer back to that if I don't have a book on it. C4 books have been out there for 40 years probably or so. I don't know exact dates or times, but C4s were in the 60s, and that was at least 40 something years ago. Older than I am, couldn't tell you. What we do know, though, is that if you look at your separator plate and you go off of the bathtubs that are corresponding to the valve body with the two holes in the bathtub, one would say that there should be a check ball in that section of the valve body. Same thing with the two holes in the bathtub over here. If I can put this thing on there right. Bathtub right here, two holes right here. So we've got our check balls back in where we took them out of and ultimately where they need to come from. I like to glue my check balls into the valve body. If you guys don't like to glue them in, that's fine. That's your own way to do it. Just know that you guys suck, and that's okay. But for the rest of us out there, like to use a little bit of glue, hold the check balls in place, and then we're going to put the two valve body halves together. C4 valve body is actually kind of interesting. There's a couple of different ways to do this. Guys, I've seen people do it like this where they put all three pieces together and they'll work their two plates in place like so and then put the bolts down, and that works. That's an okay way to do it. If you guys want to do it that way, absolutely fine. Or another way you can do it is to take a pair of center punches, line up the guide pin bolts in your valve body, which I'm gonna go with those two there because they center the plate the best on the channel plate. Then we're going to put our two plates in place, putting our screws back where they belong because that is very important on a C4. That screw with the stud sticking off the top there is for the throttle valve. This valve right here. It keeps the linkage centered right here. This little tit off the linkage, it keeps it in this channel. So if you don't have that thing in there, the TV linkage can come out of the back and then it'll bind up and it'll ultimately break the TV linkage off. So if you guys don't want to have to fight TV problems, make sure that that bolt's right there. It's kind of an important little piece. Go ahead and get our other side put together here. I'd grab the speed handle and run this down, but these bolts just thread in so nice on the dupe by finger. Every once in a while, you just got to kind of finger your valve body a little bit. Really makes them happy and makes them move better. Now, I've got that on there. Flip this dude over. Line it up with the holes. Get everything where it's supposed to be. We've got two main bolts on the rear here. Go in these two locations. I'm going to thread these guys in by hand. And we're going to flip the valve body over. Put our bolts underneath the filter first. Very important there. And we're going to start our outside bolts. I always like to put my tag over here. Typically, you guys see me in here using a speed handle, which I'm pretty fond of, but on C4s and 45 RFEs, 68 RFEs, stuff like that, I like to use the T-handle. This one's actually a torquing T-handle, which is kind of different, but it has inch-pound torque on it, so if you want to use inch-pounds, go for it. I don't actually go by any certain number. I was taught on C4s and C6s to not be a gorilla, I believe is the phrase as it was said to me. So these bolts don't need to be very tight. T-handle or a small nut driver, something like that. Don't go overboard, otherwise you will end up breaking bolts or stripping bolt holes. Put our filter and all the filter bolts on. I'm going to start at one end of the filter and work our way down. You guys will notice that I started in the center of the valve body, tightening the valve body. While we had the valve body apart and in our parts washer, we noticed that there was a small amount of warp to the valve body. So we used our hone stone to help flatten the surface and try to keep the two sides as parallel to each other as we can. Biggest reason we're doing that is to keep down on the cross leaks in the valve body. Too many cross leaks cause valves to do stuff they're not supposed to do, and all of a sudden you have a shift complaint. So go over all these bolts just to make sure we got everything. Alright, now that it's all assembled, we're going to put some air to it, just to see if we can hear the valve stroking somewhere down inside of there. Figure out which hole it is. Not that one. Okay, so boost valve is moving. We've already air checked all of the stuff on our case. The only thing that we didn't air check for you guys before was the vacuum modulator valve, however you want to slice that cake. And one thing that we did do while we had the case sitting here previously was we lubricated this circuit really well with transmission fluid, and then we actually used our bore buddy one more time and just cleaned the bore to make sure that everything was completely out of it. So we're going to lubricate it one more time just because I'm a weirdo and I like to know that they're thoroughly lubricated. And then we're going to take our valve and make sure that the valve is nice and free in the bore. This one's got just a little bit of drag to it, which is part of why I cleaned it so much before, but it moves nice and freely in there. So we're going to stick our modulator in there. And we're going to tighten it up. Now we're going to slide this dude over and put the valve body on. Part of putting the valve body on, you need to make sure that your linkage is set to where your manual valve is going to line up on the manual valve linkage, and the throttle valve is going to be hitting that little lever right there. We've already taken this apart, put our new outside case seal in and TV shaft seal in. So get our valve body where it needs to be. If it doesn't land right, you'll notice that it's not actually doing anything. Right there, we're actually moving something. So what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 bolts in it. We're just going to run these guys down just far enough to keep it all centered there. Going to make sure that we have detents. We do. Make sure that our TV valve is moving. Now that we know that they're where they're supposed to be, for sure, we're going to put the rest of our valve body bolts in. Now, in installing the valve body, I was taught the same thing. You don't need to use a torque wrench, but that was a long time ago, and I'm not saying that my instructor was wrong or didn't know what he was doing, but I believe that you need to be using a torque wrench on your C4 valve body. I don't know how much flex the valve body casting has, or the channel casting has there, but I know under fluid pressure, anything is possible. So run them all down my finger here and then go back over it with torque wrench. We've got this thing set at 120 inch-pounds, and we're going to torque the valve body. Okay, now that we've got our valve body torqued, we're going to put our pan on. Finally coming to the end of the road on this dinosaur style adventure, but I've really had a good time going through it and trying to learn as much as we can about our history of transmissions. There's not as many guys around as there once were to teach how to build the C4, and in all honesty, they're still going to be out there for a while. I mean, these are still a transmission that's in use, not as far as a daily driver. You can't go buy a Ford pickup with a C4 in it anymore, but there are still vehicles out there on the road driving with C4s in them. So hopefully we were able to show you guys something that was a little different and help you potentially get out of a C4 that's eating your lunch, or if you guys are just wanting to build your own, hopefully you guys can figure it out with some of this video. But either way, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to hit the little red subscribe button thingy over there in the corner, and we'll be back with you guys on the next one.